Good evening and welcome to the Green Party of the United States GreenStream show. I'm Gloria Mattera, co-chair of the National Party's Media Committee, and I'm here this evening with Margaret Elisabeth, one of the co-chairs of the Green Party, and also one of the convention co-chairs for this year's presidential nominating convention. So welcome, Margaret. We can't quite hear you, Margaret. Maybe you can fix your volume or... I'm still having some trouble with your audio.
There we go. I suspect that'll be a lot better now.
That's wonderful. I can hear you loud and clear. Welcome, Margaret.
And thank you. Sorry about that, everyone. That was a technical issue. That was Cherry keyboard interface error right there. Thank you, Gloria. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you're here tonight with me to be able to talk to these amazing candidates, to get a chance to talk about our presidential nominating convention, which is coming up, and just general Green Party stuff all around. So thank you very much.
Yeah, so let's kick it off right away and tell everyone, when is the Green Party presidential nominating convention and annual meeting?
Well, so that's coming right up. So our interesting thing, we have our presidential nominating convention during our annual national meeting. That starts on 2 Thursdays from now. So Thursday the 14th, I believe is the date, right? And our PNC is on that Saturday, which is the 17th. The PNC itself is a roughly 6-hour event that runs from noon Eastern to 6 p.m. Eastern on that Saturday. There will be a lot of activity during that specific time frame that are really special activities for the PNC delegates from the states and the caucuses, which are sometimes the same people as our national delegates, but often are more. Or different folks. So it's an opportunity for a lot of people to finally get a chance to be inside the decision-making process of the party, as it were. So during the PNC, of course, that's our presidential nominating convention. So that is where we choose the nominee for the Green Party's POTUS run coming up here in November. So it's a big time for us.
Yeah. And so this convention, once again, is virtual. The Democrats and the Republicans are having these huge conventions with lots of things going on. Well, why did we decide as the Green Party to have a virtual convention again?
So I think there's a lot of reasons for it, to be honest with you. But I think one of the main reasons that always comes up in our discussions is our strong desire to be inclusive, having as many Greens participate and attend our PNC as possible. When we offer them in person, that's a very great time for everyone who can make it. But that's a fair financial burden for some of us. We are a grassroots party. We're all volunteers and we all have other things that we're doing in our lives. So making it easy for our delegates to attend is a primary mission of our delegation process and of holding events in a general way. I know this year, maybe for the first time, the Democrats are holding a mixed convention. Some of it will be virtual as well. So I think that this is a way of the future for a lot of political parties. And I'm proud for the Green Party to be sort of leading the way in how to do online conventions and nominating processes in a fair, open, and transparent manner.
That's wonderful. And, given the fact that we are a grassroots party in terms of resources, it's costing a lot of money to get on the ballot, to get our candidates, to get our party on the ballot. And that's where we believe our resources need to go. We don't really have the kind of money, nor believe in spending the kind of money that the parties of War and Wall Street do to have extravagant parties and get-togethers and events. So I'm lucky I'm going to be a delegate from my state, which is New York. But can other people, Greens or just other people who are interested in our nominating convention, will they be able to watch it?
Absolutely. You can actually attend it if you so wish. You can go to our webpage right now, gp.org, and there is a link to our 2024 convention, and you can register and be an attendee. You don't have to be like just a delegate to show up. And if you don't want to like be an attendee but still want to watch, you can certainly do so. We'll be live streaming it on Facebook, YouTube, and probably X as well, if that will support our live stream effort there. So there will be opportunities outside just the normal viewing space to participate or watch. But if you'd like to participate, like actually engage with discussions with other delegates, other Greens, you can attend the convention virtually. Up until this Sunday, there are still hardship tickets available, so you can qualify for one of those. So it doesn't even cost you a lot of money, in some cases nothing, to attend if you so wish. I think that's a really great thing for us to do. We want to engage grassroots political activists all across the country, and so making our event free in some cases for them is the way to go.
Great. That's really wonderful if that can happen. And so who are the candidates this year vying for the nomination?
Well, that's a great question. I think that if you were to look at social media, you get a sense of some of our potential candidates. So Dr. Jill Stein is one of our candidates. She's running a pretty big social media campaign, and so some of you may have seen that. Jasmine Sherman is one of our candidates as well, and they have a really progressive campaign that they've been running. Perhaps some of you have seen that. And George Zavala is running a campaign as well, seeking our nomination out of California. George's campaign is a little bit more low-key, so you may not have seen it, but George is still there doing his part for us. So we'll have 3 people on our nominating petition. And the delegates are apportioned by their states and caucuses to split their votes however they are, if they're bound or not bound. And we'll have a robust, I think, convention with a good candidate coming out who represents really strong Green values.
Yeah, it's going to be wonderful. So that's, of course, the main event on Saturday, nominating the presidential candidate for the Green Party. But are there other things going on? You mentioned it actually starts on the Thursday before and runs through, actually, I think, to half day on Sunday. So what might be going on in addition to the nominating convention?
Well, that's a great question. So if you're Green or not, and you've ever attended our A&Ms before, then you'll have a sense of what we plan to do. So we have workshops scheduled, and these workshops can range from political issues such as let's say monetary reform, why we need to change our monetary system, why we need to reclaim our banking, to grassroots political activism, to advocating for why we need Medicare for all. All these sort of topics are brought up in our workshops. A workshop itself is usually about an hour, sometimes they're a bit longer, with some Q&A section built in, and they're presented by Greens all across the country from passion projects. These are issues that the Greens themselves are really passionate about and want to help educate us and the broader public on those specific issues. And so I think that if you're a person who would like to have a broad experience of the Green Party, of Green values, our A&M is a perfect place to do it. It is one of the few places in our party where the entire place gets together, where everybody can mingle and talk and share ideas. And I think those are the kind of spaces that really bring us together and bind us in a way which is hard to break and hard to see. Like, we're a grassroots political effort, right, with candidates all across the country, 4 of whom are with us tonight. And we have a really wonderful chance to speak to them, have them speak to you all, the audience, and articulate their platforms and why you should vote for them. I, of course, think you should. I think the Green candidates are always the best candidates.
Yeah. Well, Margaret, thank you for sharing the details about the convention. And before we move into actually meeting some of the candidates, just maybe we can talk a little bit about the Green Party for people who are maybe just finding out about who we are. So, what does the Green Party stand for? Can you just kind of give a very brief description of, why are we different than the Democrats and Republicans? What's unique?
So, like in a current context, I would say that the difference is stark. And I know that we're a climate party. Many of you already associate the Green Party with climate activism, and you're correct. We do that. That's a big jam for us. But I think right now, the thing that sets us apart is the fact that we are an anti-war party. There are wars brewing all across the world at this moment, and a massive genocide taking place in Israel against the Palestinian people. So I think that right there is the salient number one issue that distinguishes us from the parties of war and Wall Street. We're not into war. We don't want to make profiteering from war efforts or any of that kind of stuff. Obviously, we support environmental policies which are conducive to all life. We also support Medicare for all. I don't know if any of you have had any medical bills recently, but our medical costs are so expensive here that we can't really afford them. Even with insurance, you still can't get medical care because your deductibles are so high. This is unsustainable, and no other country does this when they have the resources to provide healthcare to their citizens. We're the only ones who do it. So the Greens have a good policy to address it. And I think, yeah, no worries.
No, I mean, there's so many things we can talk about that the Green Party offers and is different. And so I know we have some candidates coming up where you're actually going to ask them some questions. They're going to share about their campaign. So I'll just, kind of wrap up by saying we've already alluded to this, that the Green Party takes no corporate donations, that we get donations from individuals. We're a volunteer effort in many of the states. So, we'd like you to consider helping grow the Green Party. You can make a donation at gp.org/donate. You can find out more about us at gp.org/volunteer. And just the parting words, Margaret, just want to say we're excited that you're one of the convention co-chairs. Craig Cayetano from Green Party of New Jersey is the other one who could not make it. And so we will be moving on for you to interview our wonderful candidates from across the country.
Thank you so much, Gloria, for being here tonight and participating in this opening segment with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. We are here with Christina Khalil from New Jersey and Chester Todd from Wisconsin. Both fantastic Green candidates running different races, but both trying to be, in one case, a senator, and one case, a congressman for your constituents. So I know we're going to kind of go back and forth on some of our discussion here. So I wanted to kind of jump right in with some of the policies that both of you have, which are ones that are near and dear to your hearts. I know that they're all, of course, on your websites, and hopefully we can get a link to the websites in the chat. Miss Producer, perhaps you can do that for us. I'm not sure. But if so, that would be awesome. So I guess I'll start moving camera left to right. So Christina, so you're running for U.S. Senate in New Jersey, which is a big role, right? Like being a senator is obviously a huge responsibility, and there were other positions that you could have run for. So what made you decide that you wanted to run for senator?
Okay, so that is I'm going to try and make this answer short. So I grew up in foster care. I'm a first generation Egyptian. So I've experienced a lot of trials and tribulations. But what really set me on the path was it was vote blue no matter who. And I was a big Bernie fan, and I'm now disappointed. And working frontline during the entire COVID epidemic. And I was at the hospital. And it got to the point where these policies were not matching the action. And I wanted to know where the money was going. Why aren't we able to help people? How come we're combining, the hospital is combining people that are COVID positive with COVID negatives? And we had no say, even though we were frontline and administration had more power over us. And also, I worked in the substance abuse field. It was a medical detox. And I was also tired of, getting denied by insurance companies when I'm calling to get help, and having my clients and patients having to be sent back out. And even though it's me, a nurse and a doctor, we're saying that this client is sick and needs to enter the hospital, they could go out and something bad could happen to them. And the insurance company is saying, well, even though you did your assessment, we don't think they're sick enough. You're not a doctor. You're not a social worker. You're not a medical professional. You're not trained. Who are you to tell me and the medical professionals who have this person in front of me whether they are sick or not? So I started doing my research, and a lot of money in New Jersey was going missing. And then I researched different positions. And the Senate is really in charge of distributing the budget. And then I researched Menendez and his first corruption trial and how every Democrat stood in line. And then I did run as a progressive Demis at first. And Chester Todd knows, because he was at the New Jersey convention virtually when I gave the speech, and I read the text message that even though I had progressive values, New Jersey was telling me they were not going to support the progressive values. They were going to continue to support the people they picked and their friends, and they were not going to support anyone that was running against Menendez because that is their best friend. And I'm just like, well, what about the voters? What about the people? And that was a big wake-up call because they didn't care. And then I met Renee, who's an amazing Green member. I spoke to her. She encouraged me to interview for the Green Party, and the platforms match. And I'm on a mission to grow the Greens now in New Jersey. The progressives finally have a home in New Jersey. So that's where I'm here.
I'm glad to hear that. I just want to comment on the phrasing first corruption trial. It applies to some other things.
Yeah.
So Christina, working on the front lines during the COVID, like the start of the COVID crisis must have been a very sobering, challenging, and I want to say eye-opening experience to the injustice inherent in the healthcare system and how it is disproportionately provided to people. I'm aware that one of the statistics that came out was how care for elderly people was being denied if they thought the outcomes weren't going to be potentially good. And I think that is the sort of thing which most of us would find appalling. To know that people we have entrusted to care for our parents or grandparents are going to intentionally let them suffer and die for a cost consideration.
Yep.
So how, in your opinion, how would a medical kind of policy sort of address this issue?
It would take out the corporate corruption and actually input the humanity back in, because so New Jersey used to be service for fee, where we would do the service first and then we would get the fee later. I think it was 10 years ago or more than 10 years ago, because I started in this field a while ago. And I remember when I started, that's when they switched it over from fee to service, where you had to get approval. And then it became more about money over treatment. And it's been nothing but a downward spiral. And we've even seen programs, mental health get cut in New Jersey, people being denied, adult daycares, or when it comes to senior housing. And it's been such a mission. I've been fighting with, still to this day, because I'm still a therapist. I do support my clients in every way. I fight to find scholarships. I've had clients that had to put their houses on lien to get their loved ones in medical care. And I'm just like, that's ridiculous. How it's the taxpayers who run this country, the taxpayers who run the state of New Jersey. And without the working class, there are no corporations, there's no state, there's no country without us. So if we're here and we're working hard, we need a country that's going to take care of us. You need our taxes. You need us to work. You need us to keep this country afloat. Then we need to, in return, have the country take care of the people. Because right now it's like a slaughterhouse. When you get sick or something bad happens, you break a bone, you're disposable. You're no good because it doesn't fit the capitalistic ideologies.
That's right.
That is a very sober, clear truth, and I think it's a slight against our country and the system in place that it exists like it does. And we, the Greens, represent a really strong, good opportunity to shift that balance, to shift the balance of power in this country. So Chester, I wanted to ask you about this too. I know that healthcare and Medicare for all, of course, is a green issue, but you're, of course, in a very different part of the country, living in a very different kind of environment in Wisconsin than you might find in New Jersey. So do you find that where you are, there is an appetite for Medicare for all for the same reasons which Christina has talked about?
Yes, I definitely do. First, let me say free Palestine. That's one of the things that drove me to this party. And if the people in New Jersey have any sense, they will go out and vote for Christina. That's wonderful. You're wonderful. Let me say, yeah, it's Medicare for all. Everyone needs health care. I live in the second worst city in the United States for Black residency. I also reside in the number one state, worst state for Black residency. So there's so many issues that be in my head, that cloud my head every day. I go back to 1990 when I had to take a look at being a Democrat. It just wasn't working for me. It just, I couldn't see how the Democrats would come into my community every 2 to 4 years, get to political capital, and never give me a receipt stamped and paid in full. Plus, there was the situation with Clinton. And since we're talking about health care, I did a little research at that time. I was just starting my undergrad at that time. When I researched Clinton, his 11 years as governor of Arkansas, the infant mortality rate, I believe, for Blacks in that particular state was worse than most third world countries. He did nothing to alleviate that problem. So I bummed around for a while, vote socialist, vote federalist, vote. I didn't really know. All I knew, I couldn't vote Democrat anymore. I moved up to let's move the timeline up to 2017, when 24/7, which is a marketing research agency, first started, well, I won't say they first started, but it first come to light here in Wisconsin, that Milwaukee and Racine, which are 30 miles apart, southeastern Wisconsin, were ranked within the top 5 worst cities for Black residency in the nation. This drew me right in, but it seemed like that the disenfranchised Black, brown, and white, this kind of like went over their heads. So I got involved. Oh, let me go back a minute, because I was on YouTube one day and I seen this lady named Jill Stein. And I said, well, what is this about? And the commentator asked her, the interviewer asked her, said, well, how would you alleviate police brutality? And she says, Citizens Review Board. And I sat back, because not many people at that time had the nerve to even mention that, that throw you away into the pile over here, you're a socialist, whatever. So I began to vote green. Now, I will admit, I got caught up in that. I was an Obama man, if I go back a little bit, because I got caught up in that thing, he's back, and I even voted for him the second time, which I think really drove me more towards this way. Um, I'm very satisfied with being a Green. I think I found a home. This is a home. This fits me. It's been a long road. I'm 82 years old. It's been a long road to get to this point, to find, and at the, I don't wish no bad luck on myself, but at the end, that I finally have found a place where I belong, where people think like me, where I don't have to worry about being black, being white, being brown, that it's a humanistic gathering, a collective of human beings. Uh, Now, my job now, along with my campaign manager, Pete Curris, is to sell this across the state, to gather in more of the disenfranchised populations.
So Chester, thank you for sharing your journey to becoming a Green. I think many people can recognize their own path in that. I think a lot of my friends in the party started as Democrats as well, voting for Clinton and Obama, and becoming disillusioned with the promises. Right, here's the promise, and again, no delivery, over and over again. And at some point or another, right, you realize that's what they're going to do. They're going to sell you a bill of goods. And you mentioned, the sort of Black infant mortality rate that was awful in Arkansas, and how the same sort of issues were persisting even where you have moved to there in Wisconsin, and how the lifestyle qualities that poor and working class people of all races and ethnicities are forced to endure largely is over their heads because they don't see it. They're shunted off away from this information. You mentioned right at the start of our discussion, Free Palestine. And of course, that's a primary position of the Green Party and has been for a very long time now. We first adopted BDS as part of our platform in 2017, right as you were getting involved here with the Green Party yourself. And, I know that reparations is a massive part of the Green Party platform as well. We're the only party that has it, and we specifically call for it. And I know that this is a meaningful issue in our society, and it is a matter of justice. I think that most people in our country agree with that position. I know right now, and maybe this isn't unique, but to our time, but there's a lot of fear. We're being told this is the most important election of our life. We're going to lose democracy if you don't vote for our one guy. We'll sue you off the ballot. Don't worry. We'll make sure you can't get on. But democracy. So, Chester, have you encountered in your campaign any sort of institutional pushback from the Democrats trying to keep you off the ballot or derail your message?
It's strange you would ask that. 3 days ago, well, let me go back farther. About a month ago, I got a call from a very personal friend who's a Democrat. And we're very close. Young white man in city government in Racine, trained to be a politician since he was about 12 years old. Fantastic individual, but he's a Democrat. But I have this thing where I separate friendship and politics. So he called me one day. I was washing dishes, and he says, "Hey, Chet." I said, "Hey, how you doing?" I knew what was coming. He says, there's a Democrat on this ticket. Let me explain. The incumbent is Mr. Brian Stiles, a Republican in this district. The Democrat running is Mr. Peter Barker, and who is a former congressman who, by the way, in his freshman year in Congress, signed the '94 crime bill. So I hope we get on stage so I can talk about that. And then myself. So I take a look. I listen to this guy that called me, And all the time I'm looking in my head, what does he want? And then I figure, aha. He says, do you think you could drop out to support the Democratic nominee? I said, well, why can't he drop out and support me? And then, of course, I told him, like, we're friends and you should have known my answer. So now I'm going to play it back to, 3 days ago, roughly 4 days ago. I get a call from another friend who has a consulting firm. And he said, actually, the guy is sort of like a mentee of mine. He's a protege of mine. But money has a way, that's the problem with capitalism. One of the problems, it sways you. You don't have control of your mind. And a dollar over here and a dollar over there, and all of a sudden you're glassy-eyed. And this guy actually asked me, what amount of money would it take for me to drop out of the race? Well, I can't tell you my reply on the show. So, yeah, I've encountered, and there'll be more coming. I'm quite sure, because I have friendships all through the Democratic structure from this area. The head of the Senate Democrats is a personal friend of mine. But anyone that knows me know that I do not sway from my personal conviction. I don't do that.
Well, I gotta be honest.
I can't.
I'm surprised that they just right out and offered you money to drop out.
Yes.
I guess to a certain extent, I appreciate the honesty there. At least it's pretty plain. But it seems like, I think you're right. They should drop out and support your campaign, clearly, because we have the right campaign. So Christina, I don't know if the same situation adheres in New Jersey with that kind of connection with other political people who might be calling you personally to compel you one way or the other. But have you experienced any sort of institutional pushback against your campaign and the issues that you're bringing?
Yes, but I do want to say I have such protocols in place that it would be very impossible for somebody to actually call me. They would have to call other people to get in touch with me. And I have 3 different numbers that I just rotate around, and other people answer those numbers. And then if they're worth it, then they have to come to me. But I did have this one guy. He commented, he's from New Jersey. It was some Joe Schmo guy. And he was just went on this rant and was like, I hope we don't get Bradshaw. That's the gentleman running for the Republican Party because of what you're doing. And I'm like, well, by your logic, I entered this race first. I was the first one brave enough to call out and take on Menendez. Mm-hmm. So then Kim and Menendez should back out by your logic to support me. He had no rebuttal. I'm like, what? And he's like, well, I hope you don't steal the votes. I'm like, well, I hope Andy Kim and Menendez don't steal my votes by your logic, because I was the first one here. Again, no response.
Chester brought up a really good point, and I think it's one which can't be overstated. It's how money influences us, and we all know that it takes money to win elections, right? And the campaigns don't run for free. But we are also a grassroots political party. We will not take money from corporations or from PACs. It's all volunteers, all individual donations, and individual volunteer efforts. And I know sometimes that because we're a party primarily of working class folks, they don't always have money to donate to a party. So, I want to tell people generally watching, if you're green and you don't have a lot of money, but you want to help, volunteer your time. Yes. Your time is worth it. If you were getting paid a normal minimum wage, it would be $25 an hour. Mm-hmm. Consider your time worth that, if nothing else, right?
I can't stress that enough. If you're going to donate, I'd rather you be able to physically volunteer to canvass for me than to send $1. Money is always great. Like, we do use it. That money gets recycled within the Greens. Like, the money does get put to good use, but I'd rather have a human being knock on doors with me.
Yes. Yes.
It's that, I think so. Christina and Chester, we're kind of running up on in our time just a bit. So I want to, Chester, how, if somebody wanted to get involved with your campaign, how could they do so? Or is there like an easy way for them to contact besides your friend with your phone number?
Yes, chestertodd.org.
Perfect.
We'll get you there. I just want to say that if a person goes to our website, the Green Party website, read the platform, you're not going to find any bamboozlement in there. There's no fog. There's no facade. It's simple, down to earth. If you want to call it politics, I call it just humanity.
Common sense solutions.
Yes, you'll be able, if you get involved, you'll be able to go to sleep tonight or after reading, after being involved. Of course, there'll still be blood on your hand because our tax dollars are going to kill kids. But you'll be able to rest a little easier knowing that you don't approve of that type of politics.
And Christina, so the same question then to you. How would someone get involved with your campaign if they wanted to, obviously not being able to call you?
Oh, yes. If you just go to my website, there is a volunteer form. So you could fill that out, or you can email me at info@khalilforsenate.com. Both contact informations are up there. And if everything looks good, we'll discuss everything via email first. And then I would have another candidate, which is very supportive, that other candidates would be contacting the volunteer via phone. And then I would show up, and I would obviously, once everything's vetted properly, just for safety reasons, then I would show up and I would canvass with the person.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing your campaign with us tonight, or some of it, some of your visions about like what you want for the future for us as individual voters and just the Green Party in general. And thank you for sharing of yourself and your time. I know that some people think politics is not for them. It's for somebody else, but it isn't. It's us. It's regular people with regular things going on in our lives, choosing to participate in a process which sometimes is hostile to us. So yes. Thank you for being brave and for putting your hands up and for volunteering for sometimes a thankless mission, I think. But
thank you so much for having me. And I just want to say, I hope that Wisconsin in District 1 votes Chester Todd, and he is 82 years young. He's got a lot of wisdom and life to give.
Thank you.
Indeed. I think all of our down ballot candidates are fantastic. I think if you look, I'm just going to say this about that. If you're a person looking around the world or around the electoral world here in the United States, and you're wondering who you can vote for and not feel guilty about, Chester was right. A Green candidate. We're not going to spend your money on war and oil exploration. We'll actually spend it internally to give us housing and health care for all. Things which we all want, actually.
I just want to quickly just add one more thing, and I have to say this. New Jersey has officially been the only state to get a Green congressional candidate in every single district, a Senate candidate, and we got Jill Stein at the top. We have a full slate of new candidates that we can vote in 2024. So New Jersey and the country will have ethical leaders. So New Jersey, we got to step up, and we need volunteers to go out and spread the word.
Yeah, we do. That's a green tidal wave.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Thank you all so much. Yeah, I think that volunteering is one of the big deals for me too in this party. I think you're right, Christina. Lots of times it's easy to kind of give money, and money is useful and good, and it does get used, right? But people effort is really important. It can't be overstated. The amount of impact door knocking has is really demonstrably effective. Every study you see shows it to be so. So I think it's a real good use of time and effort for people who want to be involved but don't have, the money to do so. Okay, so I have a question then for both of you from the audience, the crowd. So is the Green Party on the ballot in Wisconsin, Chester?
Yes.
Perfect. And
Yes.
how
And
about
I encourage anyone to vote for Dr. Stein. She is one of the most wonderful people I've ever met in my life. And I've had the opportunity March 21st of this year and just about 3 weeks ago to meet her again. And that was a highlight in my 82 years.
excellent? And Christina, is the Green Party on the ballot there in New Jersey as well?
Yes, it is. We do have a historic full slate. First time ever in New Jersey. I don't know about other states, but I know first time ever we got a Green 14 and we are Green 13 across New Jersey. Everyone has an option for a pro-Palestinian, pro-humanitarian candidate that does not take corrupted money. We don't take blood money. That's what we call it in Jersey.
I think that's great. Yeah, so thank you so much. I know that it's been a very big challenge in many states to get the Green Party on the ballot. So thank you for your efforts in the ballot access drive. I know that is one of the biggest issues every electoral cycle for us. And hopefully this is the year we get across the 5% threshold and we don't have to do that anymore.
May I just throw this in? I am the first Black ever to be on the ballot in CD1 in Wisconsin. I'm also the first Green. No media outlet in this area has picked up any of those historical events.
That's disappointing.
Oh, they will, though. Believe me. They will soon as the fight starts.
The same thing here, Chester. I'm the first Egyptian and Muslim and woman that is the person of color running. And when I was on News 12, I had an interview, but they pulled my interview, and PBS New Jersey won't let me on. News 12 won't let me back on. We have a media blackout, and this entire historic, there's only 2 journalists that are actually covering us in New Jersey. And thank you, higher power, God, Allah, whatever you believe in. Thank you for those 2 journalists that are actively putting things out constantly for us.
I think it goes to prove the point that they run scared.
They are. Kimmel, they won't debate me. They are too scared to debate me.
Yeah, most definitely. And they do not want the disenfranchised populations to catch fire with this movement.
No, they don't. And I think the media blackout is a very deliberate effort, to keep us as progressives away from the public. We have a platform that everyone wants.
Right.
So I want to be mindful of our time tonight and our other speakers coming on. So thank you both for being here tonight and having a conversation with us. The audience, I hope you've enjoyed having a chance to meet Christina and Chester. If you're in New Jersey and Wisconsin, please vote for your Green candidates up and down the ballot. If you're in their districts, please vote for them in particular. If you'd like to help their campaigns, they already mentioned it earlier, chestertodd.org. And of course, you can visit Christina's website at khalilforsenate.com. So thank you very much both for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for staying with us tonight. We're going to be joined by our second set of guests, Eddie Espinoza out of Texas, running for the Railroad Commissioner. Very interesting position there. And Rachel Braaten out of Minnesota, running for the mayor of Crystal. So quite an interesting combination of things from our candidates so far. We've got a mayoral candidate, a senatorial, a congressional candidate, and a railroad commissioner. So Eddie, let me start with you and just right off the jump. what is a railroad commissioner? Like, do you actually just like monitor the railroads? Like, what's the deal there?
Yeah, thanks for hosting this live stream, Margaret. Much
You're welcome.
appreciated. Yeah, the Texas Railroad Commission, the name is misleading. The Texas Railroad Commission oversees and regulates the entire oil and gas industry in the state. So this is one of the most important environmental races in the country because of the amount of oil and gas wells that the commission oversees and regulates, and the amount of fossil fuel infrastructure that is in Texas. And let me just throw out a quick number. I wanted to share this with the audience that Texas has 460,000 oil, gas, and wastewater injection wells in the state, and there's only 187 inspectors. So this the Railroad Commission has been and is being controlled by the fossil fuel industry. So the person I'm running against, Christy Craddock, she's already been on that commission for 12 years. And if she wins re-election, that'll give her a total of 18 years of overseeing and regulating the industry. So we're trying to win this seat so that we can give regulatory control to climate scientists and people with ecological wisdom. And let me just say why I got involved with the Green Party. I'm a retired elementary teacher, and working with pre-K students and kinder students, you think to yourself, what a mess we are leaving for them. And the Green Party and my policy is the fossil fuel industry must clean up the messes that are all over the country. And then they need to transition to renewables and batteries. Now, we know that the Texas economy can be decarbonized because the Chinese are close to doing it, and they have a population of 1.4 billion. And here in Texas, we're at 30 million. So we know with the latest technology that is out there, especially with the sodium ion based batteries, we know that this can be done. It doesn't make any environmental or economic sense to get your energy from fossil fuels. I mean, we're contaminating soil, water, and air. And out in West Texas, in the Permian Basin, where the United States gets a lot or exports a lot of natural gas, it is an absolute environmental disaster out there. And someone labeled it as a mini Chernobyl.
That's awful.
It is. And studying for this race, I keep coming across the thought process of like, this can't be right, but unfortunately it is. And until we take power away from the fossil fuel industry, our global warming situation is not going to improve. So here in Texas, instead of cutting down on the fossil fuels, we're building, or they're constructing export LNG terminals along the Gulf Coast so that they can get third world countries or the global South addicted to our methane, as natural gas is methane. So it's a tough situation here in Texas, but somebody has to get on the ballot and tell Texas voters like, hey, there is another way to get our energy needs. There is a better way to treat Texas ecosystems and groundwater.
You're right. That is a misnomer of a position. I mean, it doesn't even sound like the railroad commissioner does anything with the railroads at all.
Right. That's one of the first things we want to do. We want to change the name to the Texas Energy Commission to better reflect what it does. But right now, the commission has been bought and paid for by fossil fuel corporations.
You know, I know that's a big challenge all across the country. Wherever there are fossil fuels to be extracted, the companies will come in, buy officials, of course, because, you know, for like every industry does the same thing. But few of them have the environmental impact that fossil fuel extraction does. And you're right, we don't need to do it. There are better, more sustainable methods of energy generation which are available to us. Rachel, I know that in Minnesota, some of the oil issues are a little bit different. Some of the energy extraction issues are different as well. But a lot of the same concerns, of course, about the environment prevail, and a lot of the same issues. But some of the differences, I believe, will arise because there are a lot of pipelines that transverse through Minnesota. And so you have a lot of still potential for oil disasters and fossil fuel catastrophes, even though Minnesota itself isn't a particularly large drilling state. But when I think about like different positions to run for in government, obviously we have, well, up and down the board, right? There's every single one of them. And mayor spoke out to you. So what about being mayor do you think would be like right in your bailiwick? Why does that appeal to you?
So sorry.
Okay.
I did not have my sights on mayor. I really didn't. This mayor, I've been in the Environmental Quality Commission for 2 years, and under this mayor's leadership, members of the Environmental Quality Commission have quit. I'm assuming it's actually because this mayor hasn't been interested in working with environmental issues. It's been really frustrating. I was lucky enough to be able to write a volunteer habitat restoration program when I was in the EQC. And then I got funding through Hennepin County. But the thing is that the city hasn't been interested in putting any money into or thought into what we could be doing different to alleviate, our greenhouse gas emissions or the quality of our natural areas, biodiversity, or like plastic pollution. None of these things have been apparently on the forefront of this mayor's mind. So when they put the Environmental Quality Commission on pause for the year of 2024, I figured, I guess I've got to do something else. So I had time,
Yeah.
And so my motto on my sign, you can't actually see it very well. On the very bottom, it's we can do better. So
we can do better. I think that is a message of hope that many Greens carry in our hearts. I think that's one of the reasons why we're Greens. We do know we can do better. We see a better future for ourselves. And we're the sort of folks who will step up when asked to do the work to get us there. And I find it a very interesting conversation tonight in the sense that we're having an opportunity to hear perspectives from statewide candidates and local candidates. And many times those issues are not the same, right? Because one locality might not share in a particular issue. But all the ones we're talking about tonight, environmental impacts, every city, every locale, and Medicare for all in particular, of course, are very, very important things all across the country for everybody. But I think also the impact of Medicare for all legislation and how that would impact citizens is one of those interesting echo effects, i.e. it becomes more powerful the further you get away from big cities, which have modern healthcare amenities, where you have a bunch of rural populations who have to drive a fair distance to get quality healthcare. And if they're anticipating high healthcare costs, they just won't go get it whatsoever. And so we suffer as a populace from not having that kind of policy. I know that as mayor, you have a lot of power in the city to enact policies. But also you have to work within the constraints of, your budget and the people that you have to work with.
Right.
So if you win, you win. I was gonna say if, but when you win, if you could do any of your policies that you have on your platform first, what would be the one that you would enact first?
Well, I have been mostly the first thing I talk about when I'm talking about policy specifics is about our roads. All of our roads here in Crystal are on a schedule, and they get a mill and overlay whether they need it or not. And so the policy that I would enact would be that someone, probably from Public Works, maybe a third-party contractor, would go out when a road comes due on schedule. They would actually go out and find out if that road actually needs a mill and overlay. Presumably, there are some roads every year that are getting a mill and overlay and don't need it. So.
Gotcha. I when I ran for city council here in Seattle, that was a big deal for me too. I live on a road which is poorly maintained when it's maintained, and it's a source of constant complaint for the residents. And I think like having local issues like that are direct pain points for constituents is a very good strategy. Potential other green candidates, listen up. That's the way you connect with your local people, right? That pain point, solve it. This hurts. Let's solve it like this.
In Crystal, for the last 3 years, we've had the levy has gone up on property taxes. It was 7.5% levy, and then it was 8.5% levy last year, and now it's 10%. And so, if I can think about cost savings in order to bring that levy down and combine those cost saving ideas with environmental ideas, then we all win. You get the right wing folks who are spend less money, and the left wing folks are better for the environment, and right in the middle I'm and I love everybody too.
No, it does make it pretty challenging to work inside a small political sphere like that, because you have to really be friendly with a lot of folks to get them on your side for policies that you want to enact. And I know it's a big deal too for people to have representation in their government. A person will listen to them. I'm going to talk to you. You're going to hear what I have to say, and you're going to try and fix it. And I think that is a lot of what's missing in bigger cities. You can feel really disconnected from the process of hearing from somebody. And if you're trying to talk to somebody at a statewide level, like Eddie would be, it can even be harder to get a hold of somebody. And Eddie, I've been sitting here thinking about this. There's 460,000 oil wells and derricks and stuff, and 180 some odd inspectors.
Right.
That must mean something like 500 or 600 per inspector. And that seems like it's an impossible task. You could never do it.
Yeah, if you do the math, it comes out to about 2,500 wells per inspector. And we have the vision, hey, as soon as we get in, we're canceling all new fossil fuel infrastructure, and we're banning fracking. And we need to protect our groundwater, because without water we're not going to survive. So yeah, we have innovative ideas, and we have the reforms that are ready to go, if and when we're elected. Although it's a challenge because we're running a statewide campaign on a very limited budget, so it's a challenge. And then also, a lot of people work in the fossil fuel industry here in Texas, but to those people, I would say you aren't going anywhere, because we're going to want the fossil fuel industry to clean up its mess, and we're going to need a lot of fossil fuel workers to do that.
I think that is a really good point to make. There is a concern, I guess, or a fear that people might lose their jobs and stuff when we transition to a green economy. But you're right, that's not the case at all. People will keep their jobs and be retrained.
Right. With the Green Party, no one is going to be left behind. You know, that's one of the things that I enjoy about being with the Green Party. Like, especially if we get a Green New Deal, you know, we're gonna need workers to weatherize homes. We're gonna need workers to plant trees, to trim trees, and there's a lot of economic potential for going green.
Eddie, I want to ask you a question.
To be honest with you, I'm sorry to interrupt. To be honest with you, there's more money going green than to continue the fossil fuel addiction, without a doubt.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that. Yeah. So you were talking about the water table and making sure we protect our water supply. Obviously, that's a huge deal for all of us, regardless of where you live, but especially in some states where water scarcity is becoming greater, ensuring clean supply of drinking water is really significant. But I want to ask about a slightly different perspective on that to both you and to Rachel, because I think this might impact both of you in different ways. But so I'm aware, as many people are, that Nestle, for instance, is buying groundwater rights out of whole cities and municipalities. So Eddie, does your office have the power to regulate that, to prevent the sell-off of groundwater to a private company?
I am afraid that Texas Republicans, because Austin, the capital of Texas, is controlled by Texas Republicans. I'm afraid their next step is to privatize water. And I believe it's already happened in Corpus Christi, Texas, where they said, hey, this particular corporation has access to this water, and the citizens of Corpus Christi are second fiddle to that. So that's very worrisome. Like, for us to privatize water would be a terrible idea.
Indeed. Rachel, so the land of 10,000 lakes, obviously there's a lot of fresh water there. And private corporations are trying to filch it as well. I know they offer pennies, right? So are you, as mayor of your municipality, would you have the power to regulate your water supply and to prevent corporations from stealing it? Well, buying it, but
That's a good question. I think it would be a matter of adding an ordinance to the Unified Development Code. Maybe. It sounds right. We buy our water from Minneapolis. We get it from the Mississippi. So it's sort of piped to us. So it's not really our water. It's kind of like we're actually buying it from abroad, some miles away. Yeah, so that would be, I don't think they would go to Crystal for water. I don't think that would be profitable. Yeah, but I'm thinking about, like, because we do have some like ponds and things that like run the water through the city down to our watersheds. But those are all surrounded by natural areas. So there's no industry like all like pre-existing adjacent to them. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I was going to mention, I think right now, because of global warming, the rule of thumb is everybody needs to grow their freshwater capacity storage. Everybody. Like, for example, in my area here in South Texas, one of our lakes where we get our water from is down at 13% capacity. And then the other one's at 24% capacity. So unless we get a good tropical storm, we're going to be dealing with a drought here. Actually, it's already a drought, but we're going to have problems if we don't get rain in our watershed. So it's imperative that the entire country grow its, like I mentioned, its freshwater storage capacity.
Yeah.
Make
here,
Texas green again. Yay.
in Crystal here, we have a couple of really good, really involved watershed commissions, and we have been dredging our ponds in order to increase capacity. I think we did one last year. We may have done two yet last year, and I'm not sure what the second one was right now. Or it could be that we did one last year and we're planning to do one this year. But yeah, get good people in those watershed commissions for that one. People think about that. It's important.
It is important.
It is.
I live here in the Pacific Northwest in Seattle, and I think most people around the country really associate this part of this area with a lot of rainfall and just being a very kind of damp space. But we're in the year 8 of a drought here, so it's really significant for us, and we don't get as much rain as we used to get. We just set a record again for the hottest July. So every year for us is getting hotter and hotter, and I know that's the same for all of us all across the country, right? The extreme weather conditions are moving very rapidly, and of course, as people who are living through this, one of the challenges that we are experiencing is conversely, right, the increased demand for fossil fuel consumption to deal with the effects of the climate crisis, i.e. more air conditioning units in the summer and more heating units in the winter, which of course just adds fuel to this fire. And I think we're in a real tipping point for our society, I think so, for our whole planet. And I'm glad that we have good candidates like yourselves who are articulate about green issues and the things that are impacting your communities. We talked a little bit about this with Christina and Chester. Of course, is the clear impact of money in our political races. My guess is, and I could be wrong, but my guess is, Eddie, that your opponents are going to be outspending you by a lot of money.
Oh, yes, they are. The Republican incumbent, everybody in Austin knows that she takes a lot of money from the fossil fuel industry. Mm-hmm. And the Democrat in the race, she's going to act or speak as if she's for good environmental policy. But the Democrats are also going to support those export LNG terminals along the coast. They're going to expand fossil fuel infrastructure. So we don't trust the Democrats one bit, because all this contamination here in Texas has happened under the watch of two parties, the Texas Republicans and the Texas Democrats. And the Green Party, I mean, if Mother Earth could vote, Mother Earth would vote for the Green Party, Dr. Jill Stein, and Eddie Espinoza for railroad commissioner. And that's the God's honest truth. We may not have the money or the infrastructure, but without a doubt, we have the best policy going forward to get us out of this global warming mess that we're in. I think so. I'm sorry, and it's crucial that we eliminate methane emissions, because right now we're already 12 months or 13 consecutive months at being at 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. And the IPCC has us going somewhere between 2.5 and 4. And we're barely sitting at 1.5. And the Republicans and Democrats want to expand fossil fuel infrastructure. I mean, come on, think about your own family here, because no one is going to be, regardless of where you live, no one is going to be immune from these global warming challenges that are already here.
You're not wrong about that, not in the least bit. And I know like some environments are far more sensitive to climate shifting than others. There are some species which have a very narrow niche. If the temperature goes even a few degrees above normal, they can just be completely wiped out. And I know for some people they don't care because like whatever, more insects. But biodiversity is a massively important thing for our planet. And as we lose it, we lose our ability to sustain ourselves as humans on the face of the planet. I know when some of the climate talk comes up, it can be a bit like we're going to kill the planet. We're not going to kill the planet. What we're going to do is just make it uninhabitable for ourselves. But the planet will still be here. The sun will kill it later, billions of years in the future, right? So that's not what we're going to do. But we need to, you're right, like it's this long-term thinking, but our general society is focused on this short-term profit and gain. And Rachel, your mayoral opponent may not be outspending you as much as Eddie's opponents are going to be outspending him, but I know they'll be outspending you. They did it to me here too in Seattle. So, our grassroots efforts are important, they're significant, and they're how we sustain our campaigns and move along in our election process. So Rachel, if someone wanted to get involved with your campaign today, how could they do so? Could they call you directly? Visit a website?
My phone number is 701-491-2777. They can call me. You can call me. My email address is braaten.rachel@gmail.com. And my website is rachelformayor.org. So you can get a hold of me easy. And what I really want to say, Margaret, before we end is this country is made up of so many little cities like Crystal. And if I, as mayor of this city, can be an influence on how a small city, with a small tax base, can make big differences for the climate, and the residents can be healthier as a result and more active and happier as a result, then I believe that Crystal could be an influence, not just in our region, but throughout the whole country. People can look to Crystal and say, hey, let's look at what they did. They're a blue zone city now, or whatever. A person can have dreams, right?
Yes, indeed. And you're right. Like I know a lot of people feel like, their elected representatives in Washington don't ever listen to them, but politics are local. Yeah. These local races, like local city council, mayor, school board, those positions have a massive impact on our day-to-day life. So, I'm really glad. Also, people, if you'd like to help donate, remember, we don't take PAC money or corporation money. So individual donations and time. Put a butt in a seat and help knock on some doors, mail some flyers out. That kind of stuff is invaluable to campaigns all across the country. It doesn't matter at what level they are. We all need that same level of volunteer engagement. Eddie, I know that your effort here in Texas is going to be well watched across the country because of its potential impact on the environmental situation there in Texas. How could somebody get involved with your campaign if they wanted to do so?
Yeah, they can go to my website, espinozafortex.com, and I'll spell it out: ESPINOZA4TX.com. And there they can donate, and also if they want to volunteer and help us out, there's a page for that. And as soon as we get someone that's interested, we respond right away.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I just want to kind of wrap us all up then for our presentation tonight. To remind our viewers, as I point at my camera and point at you, lucky viewer at home, to be aware that you can attend our annual national meeting and our presidential nominating convention, which are virtual this year. So you can get a ticket at gp.org/convention. You'll see it, or I think it's /ANM. You can also go to the National Party and donate if you'd like to help the national effort. The National Party donates money to candidates all across the country to support their campaigns, and of course administer the national election process we have at our A&M and presidential nominating convention. I'm really happy to have been joined tonight by Eddie Espinoza, Railroad Commissioner, soon to be Railroad Commissioner in Texas, Rachel Braaten, soon to be the mayor of Crystal in Minnesota, Chester Todd, soon to be a congressman in Wisconsin, and of course, your soon to be governor in New Jersey, Christina Khalil. So thank you all for being with us tonight, spending some of your Thursday night listening to Greens talk about green stuff, which we're always happy to do. Trust me, talk to any of the candidates. They are more than happy to go on about our issues and explain to you why we are the best option all across the ballot level. We are the only anti-war party that is running any candidate this year that you'll be able to find on your ballot and vote for. So if you're anti-war, if you support the environmental movement, if you are a supporter of Medicare for all, if you'd like to do something about the situation that we find ourselves in, this is your opportunity. This is a liminal moment in the Green Party history. We have a phenomenal chance to get our presidential candidate across the 5% threshold. We look all around us at the appetite for change. There is a 70% polling rate for Americans who want a third party. That's us. We're already here. We've spent the last 24 years or so building the infrastructure to get to this point. We are building the change we want to see in the world. I'm very grateful to have had a chance to be with you tonight as a co-chair of the National Party. I've been honored and humbled beyond belief to have earned the respect and trust of my peers to have served my 2 terms. I will be concluding my term at our PNC. In fact, Sunday night, or actually at our A&M, will be my last day. And we'll be welcoming new steering committee members as well. So there's a lot of stuff happening during our annual national meeting and our PNCs that are really important things for Greens. So please consider visiting. You can also watch it all online, either live as it's happening on YouTube, Facebook, and X, or of course afterwards, catch the video too. They'll be posted up usually every day after the event. All the different workshops that you might want to see, but you can't because you're at a different workshop. You can always pick up on our YouTube channel later. So that's what we got there going on for you. And I think that's about my time for tonight, unless I am missing my clock. But I don't know if I am. Mr. Producer, can I have a clock, please? And there you go. So thank you all tonight. I'm going to say thank you again. And goodbye. Thank you all.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Margaret. Yeah, nice meeting you, Eddie.
Yeah, likewise, Rachel. Good luck.
Thank you. You too.